Hi there, my name is Lori Weiler, and this is my presentation on how everyday exposures to social media have an influence on our cognition as individuals. First, I want to just start out with just a small introduction, starting with that the prevalence of social media has rise significantly. Two-thirds of adults have at least one social media account, according to the Pew Research Center recently in 2018. Some argue that social media can enhance memory because people post events and then they're able to recall those events. But really, what has been found is that memories are actually being offloaded to an external source instead of being stored. So while they're able to recall those memories, it's actually being pushed off and offloaded instead of actually being stored. Additionally, frequent social media usage leads to attentional disengagement of people's surroundings, so they're not able to interact with one another, not able to pay attention to what's going on, and that's really leading to a disconnect and a decrease in interacting with one's surroundings and people around them. The first point I wanted to address is that our attentional capacity is really being stretched. Our attention is being divided across devices, across apps, across social media accounts, and this is really at the expense of our sustained concentration. So we're not able to focus in on one task or one thing. And what has been found is that multitasking on the internet or on apps doesn't necessarily equate to real life. So we may think, oh, we can do a lot of things on my phone, so that's helping me in real life. That's not the case. And what has been found is that this has been an increase in that has caused an increase in ADHD symptoms and an increase in attention span problems and such. And so our attention to being able to really focus on things has really suffered because of an increase in social media. Additionally, the way we access information and knowledge has changed. We now become reliant on the internet to get our information. We just Google things instead of having to remember things, facts, knowledge, figures. We go to the internet to look for those things. Additionally, I wanted to point out that daily social media usage is associated with same day or next day memory failures, and this is regardless of age. So that increase in social media every single day is leading to the next day not being able to remember things, and this is not dependent on if a person's older or younger. This is across all ages. The next point I wanted to discuss was how it's being affected socially. Our online relationships have increased, and this has increased globally or internationally. But what has increased because of this is cyberbullying or social media rejection via dislikes or unfriending or thumbs down, whatever it may be. And this has led to an increase in anxiety, depression, social isolation, exclusion. These are all negative things that have increased due to an online presence, due to these apps, due to these social media accounts. And as well as social comparison has increased due to online presence. And this leads to negative self-concepts, unrealistic expectations. This has increased and become such a huge thing in our day and culture because of an increase in social media. The last point I wanted to make is that screen exposure can really disrupt our sleep, and it not only affects our sleep, but affects our cognition and behavior as well. So poor sleep quality, increase in sleep awakenings can lead to a decrease in cognition, and this can also cause structural changes in our brain. So they can reduce functional connectivity in our brain as well as gray matter volume. And this leads to cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's disease, dementia. So this can really affect this increase in social media, phones at night, all can lead to a decrease in cognitive impairment or a decrease in cognition and lead to cognitive impairment. As far as my personal experience, For me, social media is a great way to connect with my friends and family, especially since many of them do not live close to me. But it can be incredibly negative and addictive. So I've had to learn that it all comes down to moderation. I have to take breaks, and I have to make sure that I don't get caught up in the comparison game because it affects me greatly. I actually fast social media quite frequently because I find myself getting caught up in letting it consume me and becoming too addictive. I also find that it becomes a crutch cognitively. Um, the internet kind of provides me an opportunity to just unplug and not have to really think, and that is not necessarily always a good thing. We want our brains to be active. We want to be cognitively stimulated at times. And so if I'm just scrolling and not really thinking, that's not necessarily a good thing. I want my brain to be active. I want my brain to be moving. And then so I continually have to remind myself to stop scrolling, to stop looking at my phone, and maybe do something that's healthy for my brain, like talking with others, playing games, reading a book, taking a break from my phone, and focusing on things that are important to me, that matter, and provide cognitive stimulation as well.